Lori here. I'm back. So I'm here to do kind of a slightly delayed video, but I said this at the start of the summer, I do tend to read a lot of contemporary books in the summer. So I just want to kind of do a wrap up of the top 10 reads that I read that are contemporary themed, and then the five that I wound up reading, but they just weren't my favorite. And I know people do read contemporary all year. Now I'm starting to read contemporary all year, but these are just some books that I wound up picking up over the summer because it's normally when I read contemporaries, and I wanted to give you guys kind of my overall thoughts. If there are other contemporary books that I've read, these are just the one that either caught my eye in a good way or in a bad way. But the first book we are going to chat about is Majesty by Katharine McGee. From Book Expo. I think it's Book Expo or or ALA, because I did go to both. But I did wind up getting an early copy. This book just came out. It came out the first week of September. I wound up loving this book. I really remember liking American Royals, but I thought Majesty just was a step up. I really liked all the point of views. I loved all the characters. I thought it was just a great read. One that I was so invested in, and I think that it really changed the game about all the characters. I don't know if we're ever going to get a third book, but I thought that it set it up so nicely. All the romances I was so invested in. And it was just quite a fun read, and I just liked that it had some dystopian elements, but also very focused on the romance. And it was funny because the way the book started and the way the book ended and how I felt about the relationships changed so dramatically, which I think is a tale of a good storyteller. I do have Katharine McGee's other series, the Thousand Floor series, high on my TBR because it's a book series that I think I should be reading because I really loved this series. I wonder if we're going to get a third book, but overall was so fun. This series I found to be super fun. I liked book 1, but I adored book 2. Book 2 got 5 stars, book 1 got 4 stars. But for those that don't know, it's basically alternative history. What if George Washington was crowned king and not president? And you follow a young girl named Beatrice as she is the first daughter, and she is leading her way to be queen. And it was great. You follow Beatrice's main point of view. You follow Princess Samantha, who is a twin, who is the younger sister. And then you follow Daphne, who is a socialite who wants to get the young boy prince to be her relationship. And then you follow Sam's best friend, and all their romantic entanglements tend to happen. It was super fun, super gushy, super fun page turner for the summer, but also if you're just bored in the house and you want something quick to read. Very, very fun, and I really hope that she writes more in this world in the future. The next one I want to chat about is From Twinkle with Love by Saya Minan. I wound up reading When Dimple Met Rishi, and I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. This book, however, totally stole my heart. It follows a girl named Twinkle, and it is her determination to be a writer. And she winds up determined to fall for this young man in her class. But her paths wind up crossing with his twin brother as they are working together on a movie. And let's just say hilarity, drama, and maybe romance ensues. I thought this was such a good, diverse read. It really tackled a lot about a culture that I am not that familiar with. I love Neil as a character, and I also like this book was mostly told from Twinkle's point of view, but you do have other elements of Neil and some like side elements. Also, the start of every book, it's told in like journal entries. So every one she's writing to a different famous woman director, which I thought was so cool and a nice way to frame it. And I wound up really, really loving this. I have to pick up her other books, but this was one that definitely changed my opinion on her as a writer, I'll be honest. Because I didn't really like When Dimple Met Rishi, but I really like the characters in this one. So if you read When Dimple Met Rishi and it wasn't your favorite, then I would recommend you check out this one. Again, it might be because I really like movies that have to do with the arts as like a backdrop, but this one was so fun, and I love Neil as a character. Next book I'm going to chat through is Woman of Truth by Kasie West. This was definitely one of my favorites of the summer. I love Kasie West's writing. I like the books more that she publishes through Harper. I really wound up liking this whole series, Fame Fading, The First Kiss, Oh, I don't remember the name of the first one. It's the first book in this series. What is it called? I don't remember. But that was the Love Life in the List was the first one. I also really like Listen to Your Heart, but this is kind of like a companion book because you kind of see all the characters in this. This one follows a girl named Hadley Moore who is a swimmer, and on her first day, a person who winds up dressing up as action hero Heath Hall winds up interrupting her swim meet, and she is determined to uncover who that is. I'm not going to say anything else about it because the summary doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I'll be honest, but I wound up adoring this book. I thought it was so fun, so cute, really focused a lot on self-discovery. There was a lot of elements about Hadley's character that I wound up liking, and it was great. This book has changed titles like quite a few times, but I wound up really liking it. I wound up giving it 5 stars. I don't know what Casey Rest is writing next, but I really like the companion books. This is definitely will be one of my favorite books of the year because I just thought it was great. I thought it was a perfect, fluffy summer contemporary read, but also that had some hard-hitting issues that I just liked. And I thought the romance was super cute, and the mystery didn't go the way that I thought it was. But another read that was definitely put a smile on my face this summer. I'm going to chat through is 4 Days of You and Me by Miranda Kennelly. I think I'm saying that name right. Miranda Kennelly book that I read, and it's not part of the 100 Oaks series, I don't think, but it follows these 2 characters, and it follows them on the same field trip every single year in May. So you meet these 2 characters in freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, and senior year, and every trip gets a little bit more extreme. Like their first trip is like to like a park, and then it's like an amusement park or like somewhere else, and then one's to New York City, and then they go like abroad, I guess. But it just followed this relationship between these 2 characters, and it progresses. It was super fun. It was something that I wound up really, really liking. I mean, again, I read this during quarantine when I couldn't go anywhere, and one of the sections they went to New York City, and I was just like dying to be in New York City at that point. The one thing I liked about it is that it was every single day, but it also flashed back to like moments in that year that kind of fleshed out the world a little bit. And I just thought that it was such a fun read. Like I really wound up liking the characters. I wound up liking romance. I thought it was very, very focused on self-discovery. And it was just fun. It was a great read. There was a lot of travel elements to it. And if you're feeling a little bit wanderlusty and really want to go somewhere and you're still in lockdown like I am, or travel is not really possible right now, I would pick this one up. But the romance was the one that I definitely liked, and I found it to be super cute. And I will definitely check out more reads by Miranda Kennelly and possibly pick up her backlist as well. Maybe next summer. Maybe I'll make that my project next summer. We'll see what next year brings. But the next book I'm going to chat through is The Upside of Falling. This is a book I sort of picked up on a whim from Heather at Bookables, and she wound up saying it was a cute book that had like a fake dating trope, and I wound up adoring this book. I really wound up liking it. I like that it was dual point of view. I like that it was fake dating. I like that the characters really were dealing with a bunch of harder issues, but it was all wrapped up in just like a fun, fluffy read, and I wound up really enjoying it. I love fake dating as a trope, especially because it tends to force characters to interact with each other, people who they don't necessarily like or enjoy their company. But I also like that this book did deal with harder topics, especially in reference to, I can't remember their names, but the male lead had a lot of hard issues, and so did the girl lead as well. And I wound up really, really liking it. But their relationship was super fun, and it was just a really, really fun read. So if you're looking for kind of a quick read, I remember it being super fast when I read it, it might be a perfect read for you. But I wound up really liking it, and I'll definitely check out more books by this author in the future for sure. The next book we're going to chat about is definitely one of my favorite of the summer, and that is More Than Maybe by Erin Hans. Book that I adored. I've never read Erin Hans before, but she writes music-themed contemporary novels. This book follows Veda, and again, it's been a while, but I know he has a twin brother, and their paths wind up crossing unexpectedly at the music studio that she works at, and It was great. It was like kind of like a love to hate romance, and there was music involved. The girl Veda wants to be like a music writer for Rolling Stone, and he is the son of a very, very famous former rock star. And he actually is very, very good at music. And he does a podcast with his twin brother at like this location. And it was amazing. I love these characters. I love music as a setting, and I thought it was great. It also talked a lot about found family and, foster, like, step parents, which is always sometimes seen in like a negative light. And I really like the relationship that Veda had with her stepfather. I thought it was really unique and so special. It was a great romance, and one that definitely put a smile on my face. And when I talk about the next book, it's kind of in the same theme because it's her first book, and that is called You'd Be Mine, which is also by Erin. Another book that's right now, if I had to do my top 10 books of the year, this would totally make it, along with More Than Maybe. But this is one of my favorite tropes. I love a bad boy. I love a girl next door. I love music. So basically, these two young singers are teamed up together. One has to save their image, and one, she just wants a chance to be a singer, but they both come from really traumatic pasts. The girl's parents, you'll have to read the book. Like, there's a story about her parents involved in the music industry that led her to living on her own, and then this boy who's dealing with a lot of issues with alcohol and drugs. So their paths wind up crossing to kind of fix both their images and give this girl a little bit of playtime. And it is adorable. I really wound up liking the story, but the highlight of this book, I physically read this book, and I just want the songs. Like, I am not a big country music star, but boy, like music like liver, but boy, did these songs, I don't know how they were written, but I want those songs on my iPod so badly. Like, sometimes I read books that have to do with music, and they print the lyrics, and you're like, why can that not be a song? So for that, I was like, ooh, I want these songs. But it was just sweet. It was a great read. One of my favorite tropes. I love to hate in like the music industry. It was just so good. So definitely check out this author. She will definitely be on my authors I found this year list because I read 2 books by her. Her third one sounds always awesome, amazing, and is a companion to More Than Maybe. And it follows Veda's best friend, which I'm really excited about. And the next book I am going to chat about is Yes, No, Maybe. I'm heading into our presidential election season. This book does deal with activism, voting, 2 characters who I just loved. I really, really wound up liking this book. But it follows a character named Jamie, who's a Jewish American, and Maya, who is a Muslim teen. And they wind up they wound up getting involved in a political campaign in Alabama in the summer for a Democratic candidate. And it was a great read. I think it talks a lot about activism for young people. When you can't vote, what can you do? It really motivated me to get involved in a couple of different ways. I thought the romance was great. I thought the friendship was great, or the potential romance was great. I just wound up liking this. It also dealt with a lot of hard topics like racism in a lot of different ways for both characters, and it looked at like the complexity of an election and what you have to do to get people out to vote. But it was also set in the backdrop of Alabama, and there was a measure on the table to make a person's ability to wear a headscarf illegal. And I thought that was a really interesting take on it. It was also loosely inspired by modern day events after the 2016 election with after Trump did win. This was a great read. I wound up giving it 5 stars, and I highly recommend it. It was amazing. If you are a young person and you're watching this video and you feel a little bit lost in the noise of what's happening and you feel a little bit powerless, or even for adults that feel powerless, this was a great book to show how you can make your voice heard as a young person, but also as an adult when we feel like we have to do more than get out and vote. So this was a great read. Also super funny, super charming, and dealt with harder topics that I wound up really, really liking. And the next book I'm going to chat about is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon, which is one of the most recent books I've read. I read this in early September. I actually don't even have my review up yet. But I wound up loving this book. I haven't read nothing by Rachel Lynn Solomon in the past, but this one is more of like a fun contemporary set in the aftermath of graduating from college. Two characters who have been competing for their entire 4 years wind up teaming up. Well, not teaming up, but there's like a competition called Assassin. So it was called something different, and you have to like compete to win that. And they wind up being unexpected partners in that. So it takes place over 24 hours. There's a competition. There's a love to hate romance. I wound up loving this one. Gave it 5 stars. Definitely motivated me to pick up her other books, which are a little bit more emotional contemporaries. But this one was great. It just had some of my favorite elements. I love a competition style like plot point, and that definitely was present in this. And I just loved Rowan as a character. They also had like elements of a book that kind of like explained their past history. I would have liked to see Neil's point of view. That was the only downside to this book, but other than that, a solid 5-star read. And the last book I'm going to chat about in this section of this vlog is Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston, which is the 3rd book in the Once Upon a Con series. I love this book. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling following Rosie and Vance. Rosie is a young girl that lives in this small town, and she winds up, thanks to this adorable dog, her paths winds up crossing with Vance Rains, who is one of the stars in the Starflight series, and they wind up destroying a book that is part of the Starfield canon, and they wind up having to work together so that they don't get in trouble. It was great. It was perfect. I really, really wound up liking this one. Definitely a step up from Princess and the Fangirl, which I liked but didn't love. This one fulfilled all my dreams, and I'm a big Beauty and the Beast fan, and there was a adorable puppy inside it. Rosie was a great character. I love Vance. This was also a dual point of view book. So solid. So these are the most recent books that I read, and that will wrap up like the top 9 or 10 contemporary books that I would say you definitely have to check out. And now we're going to get into the ones that just didn't do it for me. And I'm not going to say that these books are awful. They just weren't my favorite. And again, this is just my opinion. If this book sounds super interesting to you, read it. I'm happy you might like it more than I did, but I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts. I'm going to talk through 4 books that just were not my favorite. And the first book I'm going to chat through is The Mall by Megan McCaffrey. Had a super cool concept. It was basically following this young girl. It's the summer before she goes off to college. It's set in the 90s. I grew up in the 90s, but this is like early 90s, and that's like not when I was not when I was like in pop culture involved at that point. But it basically follows her, and she winds up getting a job at the mall, but the first day of her job at the mall, she winds up breaking up with her boyfriend. She loses her job, so she winds up like working at another place with like a former best friend. I thought it was a cool concept. The romance really wasn't there for me. I felt like this really wasn't a romance book, and I just felt like the book was like a lot of self-discovery, which I normally like, but it just didn't wow me. Like, it was fine. I liked it. I read it pretty quick. I like the 90 references. But it just wasn't a book that wowed me. Like, I felt like all the elements just were not super impressive. I liked it. I just didn't love it. Like, I enjoyed it. It wasn't my favorite. I thought some of the elements were kind of cool, but all together, the book was just a little bit clunky, I'll say. So the next book I'm going to chat through is Say Yes Summer. A sort of similar book than The Mall. I thought the concept was really interesting. I like books where book characters challenge themselves to say yes to everything. And I liked it. I thought the concept was fun, but I just felt like the story didn't capture me. I felt like I wasn't really connected to the characters. The romance was fun, but it wasn't anything that blew me away. I think with this book, I struggled a little bit feeling connected to the characters. And it was also a super short read. I don't even think this book it wasn't even over 300 pages. I think it was like 250 pages or something, very, very short. So it was just hard to feel super connected to the characters, and I just felt the story was a little bit predictable. And the next book we're going to chat about is probably the most controversial one on this list, and that is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Ebertalli. A book that I went in a little bit hesitant, I'll be honest. But I still love the Simon world. I love the characters. I love the other books in this series. I just really struggled with Leah in this book. I struggled a lot with her character. It her point of view, I think I would have liked this story and hearing about Leah's experiments, I didn't want to be in this character's point of view because I thought it was just a little bit hard to be in her point of view. It also does have bi representation, which I thought was very, very a great thing. I just struggled with a lot of the choices, like the characters in this book, I think, and the ultimately end up of who she wound up with. I loved being back into the Simon world and I love seeing all the other characters, but I just struggled being in Leah's head a little bit. So, again, I will say, like, I am not the biggest fan of unlikable characters. I sort of struggle feeling connected to them. Sometimes the book at the end does win me over. This book really didn't, but I still loved being back in the Simon verse and seeing all the other characters. It just wasn't my favorite read of the summer. And the last book I'm going to chat about is How to Love by Katie Katuck. This is another book that I just did not love. It deals with the aftermath of teen pregnancy, and it follows, you follow this girl. Again, it's been a while. I can't really remember names. I apologize. But it follows this girl. She winds up living in this small town, and the father of her daughter winds up coming back to town, and they wind up kind of interacting with each other. But then you also flash to the past to see up to the moment when she finds out she's pregnant. So the part of the book, like in the past, I struggled with a lot because there was a lot of unhealthy relationship stuff going on, a lot. And then the present, I just didn't feel that connected to the characters. Like, I was like, well, why do you want to do this? Like, when he was such a bad person. So, like, I struggled with this book a little bit. I only gave it 3 stars. All these books, I think I gave 3 stars. But yeah, so that's kind of the books that just didn't wow me and the books that I wound up really, really liking. I'm definitely going to do this again after the fall season's over for the new fall themed books I'm reading because I'm reading quite a bit. Let me know in the comments what are some summer reads that you wound up really enjoying or some summer reads that you would not recommend to other people. And I'll talk to you guys later for another video. Bye.